Good morning, everyone. It's great to be with all of you again today, and thanks for joining us. Welcome to Pattern for Progress's monthly housing webinar series. This is our sixth one this year, and looking forward to the balance of the year as we get into some other topics over the summer and into the fall and winter. Our webinar series has been generously sponsored by NeighborWorks America, and today's topic is empowering equity in real estate development. We have a very busy morning, lots of panelists and a solutions lounge. So I'd like to very quickly frame the conversation. But before doing so, I'd like to do a quick shout out to my friend at TD Bank, Mandy Kelso. You've been instrumental in setting this up, so I really appreciate all of your time. There are many barriers to entry in the real estate development industry, which include access to capital for pre-development loans, construction loans, and permanent financing. Experience in deep portfolio and having a deep portfolio of completed projects is a requirement to be competitive in responses to requests for proposals and requests for qualifications, which are typically issued by municipalities and sometimes private owners seeking to attract partners. Getting there is a challenge, and the playing field is not level. This morning, we're gathered to learn about development projects underway in the lower Hudson Valley and New York City area. They are driving equity and furthering diversity within the real estate sector, led by Black-owned businesses within the industry. The real estate development sector has been incredibly difficult to penetrate as a new developer, but has historically excluded new developers of color. Today's webinar is set up in two parts. Part one is to hear from the developers about their projects and to listen to their challenges. Greg Marr from the Leviticus Fund will moderate this panel. After we do some Q&A, part two, we're going to move into the Solutions Lounge for a number of presentations from lenders and regional organizations working to address the challenges to equity and empowerment by providing resources to developers of color. These programs and products are offered as solutions to the issues of inequitable access to resources within the Black and Latino development community. Now, logistics. Please use the question and answer box to post questions throughout the morning, and we're going to do our best to fit them in at the end of each of the panels. So I'd like to begin by turning the helm over to Greg Marr, Executive Director of the Leviticus Fund. Greg, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Thank you very much and welcome everyone. As Joe mentioned, I'm the Executive Director of the Leviticus Fund. We're a broad-based community development support CDFI headquartered in the Hudson Valley. I'm very excited to be moderating this segment of the program today. We have a great panel, including developers that are sort of at the front end of their careers and then some others who are more established and have some developments under their belt. Just as a reminder, the goal here of all of our work is to overcome the systemic marginalization of BIPOC-led and owned real estate entrepreneurs, and to strengthen their businesses, to increase their income, to grow their net worth, and ultimately also to strengthen the communities where they work through revitalization, through increasing home ownership opportunities, and also by creating living wage jobs. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first panelist, which is Anthony Bailey of Lamaro Holdings, LLC. Anthony describes himself as a serial entrepreneur who advocates for the elevation of underserved communities through neighborhood revival, co-creation of co-working space, and teaching entrepreneurial skills. Anthony has applied his determination as a thoughtful developer to provide meaningful community support. As I said, he's the managing director of Lamaro Holdings. And Anthony, if I mispronounced that, please correct me.
No problem, Greg. Thank you very much. Um, Good morning, everyone. My name is Anthony Bailey. I am the CEO and Managing Director of Lumarjo Holdings. And thank you. First, let me say thank you for having this presentation and these panelists. Thank you specifically to the Center for Housing and Solutions, Hudson Valley Pattern for Progress, TD Bank Leviticus Fund, and all other partners. Just want to ensure you see my slides currently. All right, perfect. I take no answer as a good answer. Again, thank you, everyone. My name is Anthony Bailey, CEO of Lumarjo Holdings. Just to give you some background of Lumarjo Holdings, how we came about. Lumarjo Holdings LLC is a group of social impact investors that invest in real estate and companies with a social mission. So I started Lumarjo Holdings back in 2010 with a sole mission of providing possibilities for investments for the BIPOC community. And that was intentional, actually, because as I saw investing in real estate, there wasn't anything or any opportunities or vehicles specifically for Black, Indigenous people of color. So Lumarjo was created specifically for that. So a group of friends and I, we started a private equity firm, pooling our monies together, given the lack of opportunity and knowledge of creating a fund. It was kind of started grassroots level by pooling our monies together to start investing specifically in real estate. And the purpose was to actually invest and rehab homes to provide affordable homes to individuals within the community. And the creation was intentional and specific for that. So our mission is to make investments that provide wealth to a disadvantaged group of individuals via home ownership and education. So not only in the rehabbing properties, but the main purpose was also to provide education for individuals so that they understand what it is that they're getting into and understanding to utilize real estate as a form of equity and wealth generation for future generations. We make investments that provide a clear and triple bottom line: profit, people, and planet. Some of our projects, just to talk about it real quick, we started in actually in Westchester, personal property, but then honestly, given the lack of capital, Westchester being a high market area, I then moved up into Albany to do rehabs. And that market allowed me to do cash purchases, again, out of pocket and via the small group, to be able to buy properties outright and be able to leverage additional hard money lending to do rehabilitation. But that allowed us to, get our feet wet into the market and understanding how to rehab homes, as well as specifically being able to provide affordable homes to families. And honestly, a target market that we went to was single moms with children. So we were able to provide single family homes to single moms that had children. And as you can see, one of them is at the top left in that picture in Albany, which was one of the first single family units. We also did multi-family units. And the way we structured this specifically with a local lending institution was to be able to provide it at an affordable rate while still making profit, of course, but being able to have it affordable for that mom and her children. Then after being in Albany in the capital market for some time, started looking at establishing more developments and looking into doing condo development by working with the land bank. And with that, again, kind of being a small fish, is we had to partner with a local nonprofit to be able to create a development plan to present to the land bank, and then then work with local lenders to be able to provide a condo type development in a very impoverished neighborhood in Albany. That project is currently still underway. Of course, COVID put a pause on it, but that is a development to provide 18 townhomes as affordable home ownership condo type units to individuals in Albany. Then moving down back into Westchester, continuing the same concept in doing multi-unit redevelopments and investments in Westchester. Now, this took some time. This what I'm explaining to you was over a 10, 15-year process. And, as the purpose of this panel is to identify the challenges, but also, using those challenges to pretty much propel into the next level. But what has been identified is, if there was access to capital, technical development, I would have been able to do things in a more streamlined manner, as opposed to just not only utilizing my own cash, but being able to tap into other knowledgeable areas, whether it's everything from lending to pre-development, post-development, and just other knowledgeable areas where I can tap into. But honestly, doing it from bootstraps, you learn along the way. And now it's to a point now where we are educating, we're holding homeowner education classes for individuals to own, potentially own their own home, but also working with lending institutions now to provide affordable lending options and create specific lending options that, may not necessarily be available to persons now. But the biggest thing that we're doing now is working specifically with government and in Yonkers right now to identify and acquire distressed property and land so that we can develop affordable condos. And we are currently partnering with lending institutions to provide those affordable lending options. So similar to what, government lending options that are available, FHA and so forth, but also creating specific lending options that can be affordable, and then also offering grant opportunities to individuals to be able to afford the condos that we develop. And the ultimate goal is to develop these condos into affordable homes so that, we're creating wealth generation. This current project has just started. We're currently in the process of identifying parcels in Yonkers, and we're specifically working with government to identify that, to be able to not only provide affordable options in acquiring the property, but also deferring taxes and whatever liens may have you for deferring that onto the client. And we're currently trying to work on new options, and this is still in talks, but the point here is to keep it affordable. So not only in the acquisition phase, but also in the selling phase, where that savings is deferred and it continues to be affordable, not only for the first family, but onto the next family thereafter that decides to then purchase the home. So I know I said a lot there in a short amount of time, but there have been issues along the way. Of course, everything wasn't streamlined as it sounds, but I would specifically identify access to capital and access to an education knowledge base was not a hindrance, but it was still a motivation to continue to work and still be able to provide opportunities for individuals. And we are still able to provide affordable homes, and not just affordable apartments, but specifically affordable homes for families so that wealth generation can occur. So with that being said, if there are any questions, I don't know if we're, excuse me if we're doing questions right now, but just wanted to give you a quick overview of Lamarja Holdings and what it is that we do and the developments that we plan on doing in the future.
That was terrific, Anthony. Thanks so much. I think we're going to hold the questions till the end, but
Right.
folks can start typing them into the Q&A box, and we'll have the panelists ready. We have a number of panelists, so we want to make sure that we allow all of them to make their presentations. But again, thank you, Anthony. I'd like to next introduce Everett Perry from Urban Ecoscapes. Everett and his wife Tamia have this firm, Urban Ecoscapes, that specializes in the renovation and redevelopment of New York area properties that were dilapidated, distressed, or abandoned. Everett has more than 20 years of experience in the acquisition, development, construction, financing, brokerage, and management of real estate in urban areas. As president of Urban Ecoscapes, Everett incubates new business development initiatives and leads the firm's ongoing development and construction ventures. Everett.
Thank you very much, Greg. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm just confirming that my screen is being shared properly.
Yes, I see it.
Great, thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Greg. Appreciate the introduction. As Greg said, my name is Everett Perry. I am the president of Urban Ecospaces Incorporated. And the name of our project is that we'll be discussing today primarily is called Resilient Homes. This is a New York City affordable housing project where we were awarded an RFP from HPD, which is commonly known as the Housing Preservation Department, back in 2019. And as is the case, we definitely had some delays due to COVID like everyone else. And this is the project where we're going to be building 29 residential homes using a modular format, using a modular building path, and it's going to be an 80% AMI. So we have over 20 plus years since 2009, we've developed, rehabilitated, and or constructed over 650 houses or condominiums in construction. And there's two components to our business, which is one is housing development, where we are focused on new home ownership and rental properties. Generally, we're looking to preserve homes by making the necessary repairs. And what the concept of that is, if you preserve a home and you help someone stay in a home, this is another program we're in right now, I should also mention, and that allows low and moderate income families to stay in their homes without selling them, to participate in the equity of, the equity they would miss if they did sell their home when they couldn't afford it anymore. We restore and rebuild homes affected by climate change. That's been happening since about 2015, 2016. We were between here and Puerto Rico doing disaster recovery. And also a big part of what we do is we rehabilitate distressed properties, and we started that back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Another component of the company is general construction. So the focus of that is most recently construction management and project management. So for example, in Puerto Rico, we rehabbed over 600 houses within a 9-month period. That was their version of rapid repairs. Well, everyone's familiar with the New York City version. And we were actually, and that was one of the projects with construction management and project management. But one of the things we're pretty proud of is that we were one of the first companies to turn keys over to the modular construction program for Build It Back. And that was where basically they took a 12-month process and the city was able to deliver homes to people in under, I'd say within 4 to 5 months. So it's a very quick way to get people back into homes to finish out that program. So we are focused on affordable housing, housing rehabilitation, disaster rebuilding, modular construction, public, institutional, and civic construction. And we're also certified as an MWBE for the state and the city. We're also individually certified with the Dormitory Authority, commonly known as DASNY, and the New York City School Construction Authority, commonly known as the SCA. And we also are DBE certified with DOT here in New York. So these are some of the partners that we've worked with or for over the years. It's been a combination of CDFIs, community banks, construction managers, city and state agencies, not-for-profits, that are all you see listed on this slide. So in terms of our community development, our goal is to deliver affordable and healthy housing, healthy and green housing. And we're focused now on improving schools, community facilities, and other public benefit structures. As I mentioned before, we were part of the Hurricane Maria disaster rebuilding effort in Puerto Rico, as well as the Hurricane Sandy disaster rebuilding effort in New York. We also work for municipal agencies here. As I spoke about prior. One of them is MTA, which is, as many people know, the most complex agency to work for, probably in the country. And we did a renovation of a subway station at 57th Street. We also did some civil work with NYPD at the JFK Airport. And that was a security booth installation. And of course, for the schools, we've done school gym upgrades, college advisor, new offices, dance room, library renovation. And currently we're working on a DASNY project. This is a $3.9 million project where we're taking we're adding a generator to the project. So what's fascinating about this is that this is also a government, this is a DASNY through the Government of Office Storm Recovery, a GOSHA project, which relates back to sort of the disaster recovery. The housing development section is resilient homes. That's what we're going to talk about here. We're also working on another program called Home Fits, which is a program that's pretty neat. It allows, again, it's a city program that grants money to homeowners to help fix repairs that basically the city's paying for through a grant program. So the Resilient Homes project that we're working on right now, this is a project that's currently in the pre-development phase. The development phase is expected to last about 36 months, and we're going to be building 29 new construction homes that are going to be sold to individuals. We expect the first wave of these homes to close, where we'll be taking possession in the fourth quarter of this year, and then the second wave will be in the first part of the second quarter of next year. We're going to be building 18 one-family and 11 two-family homes that are going to have 11 affordable rentals. These are all going to have deed restrictions and going to be they have people specifically have to qualify for these homes through a lottery system. In addition, the homes are going to be, the rentals of the two-family homes are going to have, they're going to be affordable too. So we're using a modular construction approach on these. So essentially what that means is we're going to be buying the homes from factories in Pennsylvania. They're going to be driven or shipped to us in Staten Island. They're then going to be craned onto the piers, and we're going to weld them, and that's basically going to make the house. The process literally takes about 90. We'll have it down to about 90 days, and through efficiency, we expect it even within 2 months. All the homes are going to be lifted to the BFE flood standards by FEMA, meaning that if a house is the house is going to be lifted between 4 and 10 feet, so it won't be able to flood, and it won't be a possibility of the house flooding. And that issue of the hurricane ever affecting the house. They're going to be sustainable and climate resilient. All the homes are going to fit within the Enterprise Green Community certification, and 2 or 3 of the homes are going to have wheelchairs available. So the budget here is 24. So this is an odd thing. So we have this sort of a different issue than other people, where our acquisition cost is literally $24. So, and that of course will pay cash. But the hard cost and the soft cost is going to be the biggest issue of our project. So we're going to be financed through CPC for hard costs and soft costs. Developer's fee is going to be slightly below $1.2 million, and the total development cost for this project is about $13 million. So I'd like to give a shout out here to Lawrence Hammond of CPC, who's been working with us since I think 2018 on this project, helping us get this thing through. So we appreciate that, Lawrence. So CPC again is going to finance the development costs, the construction costs, and we're also going to be getting a subsidy through the HPD Open Door program. And the biggest issue we're having is pre-development financing. So if we're talking about challenges in our case, it was not acquisition, it's definitely pre-development. We understand that the pre-development was not so much of an issue in advance of COVID, but it was a huge issue because of COVID, because the money basically dried up. So with that said, I should also point out one other thing. So we, even though we're an MWBE company, we have MWBE goals because we do not self-perform the VAST. We only self-perform supervision and project management at this time. So, for example, in our DASNY project, the generator project, it's a $3.9 million project, and effectively we have made our goal. We're running at about 90% MWBE. Generally speaking, we employ low and very low income persons using we reach out to the neighborhood when we get there to hire people. We might approach the Workforce One as a partnership with the Sandy Recovery to help us staff up this job, and we'll be staffing starting in January. With that said, I'd like to thank Hudson Valley and Patterns of Progress and TD Bank for this opportunity to present, and as well as all the panelists and participants. If anyone has any questions outside of this, they can contact me at this number or that email address. Thank you very much.
Excellent, Everett. Nice job getting a lot of information in 10 minutes.
I tried.
Okay, moving right along. Our next panelist is James Simmons. James is with the Center for Urban Rehabilitation and Empowerment, Inc., also known as CURE, Inc. He's executive director of CURE, which is a certified not-for-profit 501c3 CHDO, Community Housing Development Organization, that's doing business in New York State as well as the city of Yonkers. 2 decades ago, James began a partnership with the city of Yonkers to assist with the development of affordable homes in distressed areas. Under his leadership, CURE successfully acquired and completed affordable townhomes as the developer and general contractor. James is currently consulting on an affordable housing development of 146 affordable units based in South Yonkers. James, take it away. You're muted. There you go.
Thank you, Greg, for that introduction. As Greg said, my name is James Simmons. I am the executive director of CURE. We are a affordable housing development corporation. So just to tell you a little bit about CURE, about my organization. CURE started this organization for the purpose of building affordable houses for people in our community to stay in our community. We started this organization back in 2000. One of the great things about CURE is that we were the first organization to kick off development in the city of Yonkers since the desegregation order was filed back in, I think, I don't know the exact date, but the deseg order in the city of Yonkers, and that deseg order was to stop development in South Yonkers based on discrimination of housing and the discrimination of education for Black and people of color in the city of Yonkers. So we kicked off that that development by building 2-family homes on Ravine Avenue in Yonkers. And these 2-family homes consisted of a rental for homeowner as well. This provided a good product because it was a cushion for the homeowner if they were to fall into some sort of hardship. They would still have a rental unit to sustain themselves and to provide income for themselves, right? So that was the first thing that we did in the city of Yonkers. So to go on from there, we built 12 condominiums on Warburton Avenue. And on this project, we definitely had CPC was one of the private lenders. We also worked with Community Capital Resources. I believe Ken Jacobs is on. I think that we acquired a bridge loan from them. This was our first big project. Actually, we had some challenges with this project. It so happened that this was during this project, we were faced with the subprime mortgage crisis. I think that they had claimed it to be one of the biggest mortgage crises of our times. But nevertheless, we prevailed, and the Lily Pearls, which is the name of the project, which we named after our late mother, was definitely a success, right? So part of the challenges that we have encountered with Development Cura as an organization is that, like I said, we had kick-started the development, especially in the South Yonkers. And if you were to come to Yonkers now, and you start from sort of the middle of the downtown, where Yonkers train station is, and you go in any direction, north, east, south, or west, you cannot go 2 blocks without encountering a major development that's going on in the city of Yonkers. And the upside of that is that the Cure organization or my organization isn't involved in any of the development. And this is why I am actually happy or excited about this panel that we're having right now and the interest that your organization, the bank, CPC, is giving towards people of color in the communities that's been sort of like knocked out of this whole development, right? So I just want to say that I'm happy for that right there, right? So so moving along, I do have some slides with a development that I'm working with right now in the city of Yonkers. Would you want to put the slides up?
Sure thing. 1 second.
Yeah. So right now, this yeah. You just scroll up to the top. Yeah, exactly. So this project is called the 309 Warburton Avenue project right here, right? So this project currently consists of various vacant lots of land in the parcels of, along the corridor of Warburton Avenue and Point Street in the city of Yonkers. The property includes 9 tax parcels that combine about 32,067 square feet, a little bit less than an acre. And there are 2 potential developments for this site. And this is what Cura is working on currently right now. And just before I move a little bit further, on these parcels, there are actually about 14 parcels in all that we are working with. But we took the liberty right now, just for the sake to get things moving, to work with these 9, and we sent this out to do a zoning analysis to come up with what we can actually do on these sites, right? So one of the options, which I call option A, I'm not controlling the screen. So option A is a multi-family development with 54 residential units and 77 parking spaces. Option 2 is a senior housing development with 59 residence units and 30 parking spaces. All these properties include access to public utilities, and they're located in the zoning district, which is multifamily zoning. What is unique about this is that Cura definitely has, we have site control over these properties. We're working with the city of Yonkers. The city of Yonkers actually owns about maybe 9 or 10 of these parcels. Cura owns by right two of the adjacent parcels. So putting this assemblage together with the city of Yonkers, we're able to move forward. We're able to move forward with this development right here. We are currently in a MOU, letter of intent, with the city of Yonkers, where we put the lands together, and we've done surveys, and we've also came up with the price with the land. So where we're at right now, we're in the process of working out the sale price so that we can continue to move forward with this development right here. The strength of this development is that the neighborhood setting that is near residential, commercial, and community services, and 1 block from the Glenwood Railroad Station. So this property is actually situated in very strategic areas, close to train stations and close to the bus lines for the city of Yonkers. The ongoing market rate in affordable housing development is evident throughout the city. We've done market analysis that shows that and supports that. Much of the development that occurred along the Hudson River is further north and further south. So just moving back a little bit, when I first started off this presentation back in maybe like 2003, 2004, Cura did a urban master plan, working with the city of Yonkers, of what we intended to have, what the city intended to have or to develop along this corridor. So we've been a part of this process, since day one, right? And moving forward, we would like to basically just entertain or discuss with the banks of how we can tap into pre-development, or do they have a product that can work with us in order to help move things forward as well. So right now with this project, I have a soft partnership that I'm working with an organization called Conifer Realtor, which is the organization that I'm consulting for on the Point and Ravine project in the city of Yonkers as well. So part of me partnering with these developers, that's my way of taking my projects to the next level and moving forward, because of the obstacles and the challenges that we face by not being able to get pre-development loans from the private lenders and stuff like that. And one of the other challenges of me as a not-for-profit organization, one of the things that we face is that a lot of times the not-for-profit entities have great support from the local governments, right? But the downside of that is that when the local governments change, that support changes also. So Cure was able to jumpstart itself by getting a lot of local support from the local government, as far as pre-development, as far as land acquisition. We were the poster child. But once that administration changes, you're no longer that poster child, and then you're back out there in the wilderness, and you have to go to the private lenders to try to get what you need in order to get started. And because of you not having that type of a track record from the beginning, it makes it very difficult to continue on to development. And that's one of the reasons why we are so far back as far as the development that's going on in the city of Yonkers right now. And I would just like to add on to that, the development that I'm working on now as consultant, we had proposed 10 years ago the identical development, and it was on its way. We would have approvals through the planning, through zoning, through the real estate, and based on the new administration coming in with a different agenda, it just derailed. It just derailed everything. So just wanted to put that out there, and that's basically it for my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, James. That was really excellent. Thanks for getting into the challenges that you've been facing and the sort of the joint venture model you've had to pursue, perhaps somewhat reluctantly, as kind of a workaround. And I think in the Solutions Lounge, you and others will hear some potential solutions to the pre-development funding challenge that you faced to cure. We're going to head north up the Hudson River to Poughkeepsie, where our next speaker is based. Tim McQueen is a native of Poughkeepsie. He's worked profusely in the community as a music producer, marketer, and promoter of the local entertainment industry. Through the Empowering Developers of Color program, which you'll hear more about in the Solutions Lounge from Mary Ling of Hudson River Housing. His goal is to show a proof of concept for the initiative to create gentralization, a new approach to welcoming new residents and development projects while combating displacement and supporting the natural culture and economic base of an area. Utilizing his deep-rooted social and cultural capital in Poughkeepsie, Tim aspires to create an equitable real estate development company that produces naturally occurring affordable housing, or NOAH. Tim, take it away.
Oh, thanks a lot, Greg. I don't know who that guy is, but he sounds cool. But thanks for having me here to Pattern, and also, excuse me, to all the different companies involved with this event today. It's great, and I'm really honored to be in the presence of all the other developers that are here, because listening to all of your stories and what you've been through, and a lot of the projects that you're working on is very inspiring. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my project. Should I share my screen? Is that fine?
Yep, go ahead, Tim.
Yes, you can do that.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'm new to this, everybody, so please bear with me. Got it. Okay, until we start, I guess I'll give a little about myself. I'm raised here in Poughkeepsie, New York. My professional career started as a producer, producing music. I worked with a few top 10 companies in the music industry, and I was doing a lot of production work, a lot of writing, and then I ended up coming back to Poughkeepsie to work on some local projects, and I started noticing that there was a need for my community to have a stake in what was going on. So I started working through the arts community and some nonprofit services, and then I ended up taking a board position with Hudson River Housing. And I've started learning a lot about how development is done and working on different projects. And I had a conversation saying, I want to do that for my community. I want to be a part of making the change happen. And they were very inviting and warm and open to it. And I started my tutelage on learning about the development process, about acquisitions and acquiring funding and zoning. And it's been a pretty a pretty adventurous ride. I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out why the screen is not sharing. But if not, I can just tell you about the project. So my first project is at 54 Knox in Poughkeepsie, New York. It is a 7,800 square foot property of mixed use. And the goal is to put 10 units of residential on the top floor, and on the ground floor and the basement floor, this is oh, look at that magic. This is the property. And on the first floor and the basement or ground floor, we'll be putting what's deemed an enterprise lab. And this commercial use will be directly for the residents and the youth in the community. The designation for the residents, we're targeting 16 to 25-year-old youth. And the goal is to create an incubation space where they get technical assistance and entrepreneurial and vocational skills, how to write business plans, how to apply for grants, business etiquette, things of that nature. We have some very good partners in Rhinebeck Savings Bank, who is going to come in on some of the acquisition costs, as well as do some programming for financial fitness and financial literacy for the youth in the community. There's a company called PlaceCore and Hudson Incubator, who are going to do a master lease on the first floor, and they're going to be performing the incubation and also the technical assistance for the youth. And on the bottom floor, the basement floor, we have also been in negotiations with a gaming company that's going to teach esports to the youth so they can help monetize some of these skills and go forward. In addition to these partners that I have working with me, we've also identified some very, very focused investors who are looking to invest in young entrepreneurs and young businesses that are going to be kind of like a Shark Tank. So it'll be like the next level for the youth that are residents of the building and also coming in from the community. So I'm excited about that as well, because I wanted to develop for my first project something that had an actual goal, not just, housing. Of course, we need housing, but I wanted something that can help stave off irresponsible gentrification. We know, the way the world is going, especially where I live in Poughkeepsie, New York, there's a lot of gentrification. There's a lot of people being displaced and priced out of their homes. I wanted to create a ecosystem and starting with the youth, where they can help themselves and also create a space where we can pick ourselves up by our own bootstraps. I'm very excited about the project. We have a pipeline also of about 4 other projects that will be smaller and more focused on just multifamily use. And I have another project coming up, which will be focused on a co-op space. So the residents will have an opportunity to have equity in the properties themselves. As far as funding, we have identified CPC for operational costs. We have some funding already that's come down from the state for operational costs. Acquisitions, Rhinebeck Savings Bank, again, as I mentioned earlier. There's also a private fund called the Community of Practice and Hudson Valley Prosperity Network that will be coming in and partnering with us on some acquisition. So pretty much my journey might not be the same as everyone else's. I'm very thankful for it. And a lot of the barriers that I have noticed, as was spoken on earlier, is, being a first-time developer and having all these bright ideas, but not having a track record is one of the first barriers that I've come into. But I will say, I have an excellent team, and the McQueen and Associates team, and also the Hudson River Housing team, who are helping navigate through a lot of that and coming up with a lot of ambitious and groundbreaking ways to bring in investors. And of course, the climate is changing a lot in the world, and a lot of people are looking more towards investing in and being a part of Black and Indigenous people of color projects and businesses, which is great. I'm really happy to be in a space to learn from, a development company that's been around over 40 years, and to also have these other brothers that are on the call as well, who've done so many great projects and are in the midst of doing so many more that I can, go to and learn from. So I'm just happy to be here, and I appreciate your time.
Thanks so much, Tim. What a great vision for this project, your first project. And luckily, you only have to do your first project once. So I really applaud your courage in thinking about being a developer. And you're far along the way here, and you got, as you said, a great team, which is key. Our last panelist, last but not least, is Duwayne Shaw. Duwayne uses Shaw Properties platform to generate above average returns in residential real estate through multiple lines of business: contract assignments, wholesales, rehabilitations, and tax lien purchases. Mr. Shaw capitalizes on decades of real estate experience and established network of agents, contractors, and service providers to source and create value in these opportunistic real estate transactions. Duwayne.
Thank you and good morning. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, everyone behind the scenes that has been working on this project for the last couple of weeks, and I'm very humbled to be here. This always makes me nervous, but here we go. My name is Duwayne Shaw, broker owner of Shaw Properties, located in Yonkers. I started in the real estate business about 20 years ago. I was a child at the time, and real estate is a business in which I believe, I don't care how old you are, you're somehow humbled by new experiences that bring you back to infant stages. One of those stages, I believe, is the development stage. What you will hear from me is not only am I a developer, a younger developer, I would say, however, you will hear a track record of someone developing, especially as a minority in the real estate business. I started my company in 2004, and my first home I purchased, which was 92 Ravine Avenue. I was working for corporate America, a very good firm at the time, and I decided I wanted to purchase a property. I was fortunate enough to find a property, and did a lot of due diligence, and it was a foreclosure, actually a HUD property, in which I purchased at the time. It just so happens that one of the panelists here, Mr. James Simmons, started his endeavors at the time also next to me at 92 Ravine Avenue in Yonkers. So I took that property and renovated it on my back, and that just basically motivated me to not only get into the business, but to also get my real estate license, in which I did. I quickly took the experiences from corporate America and from my sales background to become a rising star at the time in real estate in Yonkers in Westchester County. I took my company, which has been independent since. A lot of people who knows this business, it's very hard to be independent. Most people go to franchises. I chose not to because I felt as though I would lose my identity, it would take away from my thought process, which was to be a developer over time. So I was very successful and very blessed, to say the least, that I was able to sustain a momentum from that time period leading up to now. It was a rocky road. I would say in 2008, I went through, we went through one of the biggest challenges, and which was the financial crisis. During that time period, I saw not only my personal assets and my business suffer, but I saw, we saw the whole world suffer. Um, and during that time period, I'd want to say is when I truly saw my resilience. I decided to partner up with a gentleman who became a true mentor to me. And we decided to get into the distressed sales um, end of the business. Distressed properties are foreclosures, um, REOs, properties that you would find and you would see marketed that one would say needs TLC. I've been successful for the last several years in identifying those properties, um, acquiring those properties, not only for my capacity, but also for my clients and friends, whomever is interested in getting involved. And my gift has been just to identify not only those assets but parcels to develop, and I have been successful in developing them. Along that process, a byproduct of that came a construction. My family background is in construction and in mining in my country, Jamaica. My grandfather has built, I'd want to say, probably 50 homes in my country. So I somehow had that in me, and I got into the construction side. I now have a team of, say, around 20 within all the trade lines that I'm using. At any given time, I have around 20 people that are out on a daily basis performing tasks on my behalf under the Shaw Properties and umbrella. Other things that things that I find are difficult in this business is there's a lack, I believe, of minorities that you can see, and we can join forces together and not only asset based or a funds based, but even a knowledge based. I found that it's very difficult to find like minds or people who are willing to come forth comfortably to divulge their asset. Our key asset, I believe, is what we have inside of us, inside of our brains. And oftentimes we find that it's challenging. I've been very successful. Again, I may bring James' name up, but James, Mr. Simmons' name up more than once due to the fact that I've always looked to him as a mentor, even from a side. You look at his track record and his brothers, Andrew. These are people that I look up to, and I take a time out and I will seek out people like that to form a somewhat of a relationship with over time. Um, the other thing is I find is the finding the funds to source for each project, right? That has been my encumbrance over time. My trajectory and the assets that I have currently and I've built over time has been done mostly tremendously through, due to my own personal findings and finances, which for a minority can be burdensome. We don't, we we don't seem to have enough finances in place, knowing where immediately to find them. I tend to find a deal and then I find myself scrambling. So I've done that with practice over time. And it's something that I've realized I've been very lucky or fortunate to have overcome it and become resilient to it. But I would find that anyone else behind me would have somewhat of a difficulty in doing so because, you know, it does put a strain on a lot of resources personally, and yeah, even your family.
Wayne, I'm going to just jump in for a second. So we're at 10:01. So if you could wrap up in a minute or two, because we do have about 5 questions we want to get to as well.
Okay. Currently, I would say, well, this is you can move to the next slide. I've trekked out, this is the last one. I can run through. I'm currently working on a project. I moved part of my division up to Hudson, New York, in which I'm working on a project, taking a 5-unit building, converting it to an 8-unit building. I found in Hudson throughout my endeavors is that Hudson is lacking affordable housing, and I'm working with the city of Hudson currently on providing some more affordable housing throughout. There is some gentrification currently happening there. However, there is there's a lack of affordable housing. So again, what I find is there is a lack of think bank and a lack of finances and available readily to minorities and blacks in general. And being a part of this group and division here is something that I've long looked for, and I look forward to continuous input and help for not only myself but all the panelists and anyone interested. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Duwayne. And hang on one second. Sorry. Okay, so we have, sorry to rush you there at the end a little bit, Duwayne. I appreciate you.
No problem.
Wrapping up. So we have 5 questions. We're going to use a little bit of the time here to try to get through these questions. The first one is from Freeman Yulee. This is, I think, probably to all the panelists. He said, my question is, do you focus on utilizing MWBEs for your labor force? And if so, how did you find them? They seem to be scarce in our area. Are there any lists you can provide?
I mean, so I'll hop in and I guess I'll take that question. So I guess if you're in New York City, it's definitely not a scarcity. There's no issue there. Generally speaking, if you go to the, you can go to the SCA, you can go to the, you can go right to the, there's a New York City and New York State website, and it gives you a list of MWBEs. But I'm also a board member of what's called the National Association of Minority Contractors. And certainly someone can contact that organization. You can call me and we can give you a referral to MBEs if you're upstate, downstate, wherever you are.
Great. Thanks, Everett. Second question is from Joe DiStefano. This is to you, Everett. Do you provide direct assistance to current homeowners for maintenance? If so, what is that? What is it that you offer? I think maybe this is like, maybe this is post-sale, because I know you're doing a home ownership project. I think I'm not sure what is meant by current homeowners there, but do you do any like post-sale, advisory to first-time home buyers, or put them in touch with any agencies that can help?
No, so the way it works with a sale project is once we sell the house, it's pretty much theirs. Mm-hmm. I think the question is more referring to if we were doing a rental project where you have to maintain, a relationship with the homeowner, with the renter while they're there. But there's not assistance we're going to offer in terms of that. But when we're prepping the house to sale, we're probably going to offer, I think HPD does require us to offer some, preparatory things to help someone become a homeowner. Okay, it's also generally it's a lottery system, but there's a little bit more work we have to do than just the lottery.
Right. Okay, thanks. Brandon Walker asked, where will the homes be built? Again, I'm not sure. Maybe that is also directed toward you, Everett.
I don't think that's for me, but if it was, it's all of our homes are going to be built in Staten Island. That might be for. Okay.
Laura Foreman asked, this is for all the panelists, When developing properties, what consideration is given to access to public transportation? When street parking is tight or limited, how do you manage that for potential owners or residents?
So, you know, just to share a little bit on that. So a lot of consideration, especially in the developments that we do, are the transportation is taken into consideration. Key transportation areas are very important to the project. And what we also do is we try to work with the building department, the planning department, to come up with solutions to provide adequate parking for any development that we are doing. And just to share on you, and on most developments, this is the major issue is parking. Most of the planning departments in the city, municipalities are very on top of making sure that we do provide, or any developer provides parking for the developer.
So I'd also add, in the case of when you're building, you know, the individual houses were required by New York City Code to give 2 parking spaces per unit. So for example, if it's a 1 family, you have to give them 2 units. If it's 2 family, you have to give them 2 parking units, and we are doing that. The lots we purchased, or we're being sold, are narrow, so we have to go through what's called BSA, the Board of Standards and Appeals, and we have to apply for a variance. And we're going to be parking the houses under, if you can imagine, the house is lifted, we're going to be parking the houses underneath the house. That the car is underneath the house. And that's that matter.
Okay. Another question is, outside of traditional lending, which is hard to obtain for people of color, especially those new to the field, are there any creative financing practices or deals that any of you have benefited from?
I think we're going to get to a lot of that in the solutions lounge, actually, Greg, but feel free to jump in, anyone.
All right, so I don't want to keep jumping in here, but we're the traditional lending route just doesn't work for us. We generally go to CDFI. So for example, we're working with Leviticus in terms of our pre-development, and so there's no traditional lender that's ever been. This generally been helpful for us because we're not at that kind of level yet. So we generally go to CDFIs. Sometimes I've personally been to families, friends, and like similar to, I think, Anthony. So if you need, you know, my first house was a crack house that we flipped, and paid $90,000. I borrowed the money from everybody I knew, and we sold that at a profit. So that's typically what I think most people of color and not of color are going to have to do.
Okay, last question is, can any of the panelists share their biggest mistake or failure? So if any of you are feeling particularly transparent or forthright right this morning.
I'll actually answer this one. To be honest, in me trying to, or just getting into the field altogether, I was, I guess, doing too much and too angst on getting the project done. And then once you're kind of wrestling, start falling over yourself and not only losing money but time. So it's real estate never goes on time and on budget, but it's being mindful of your budget and your time and your constraints.
In my case, I've failed at every business I've ever, except this one. So, so if I've started 10 businesses, a few in college, every single one has failed, but you just, you fail, you get up, get knocked down, you get up and you do it again. It's really not that big of a deal. I think it develops your character when you fail. I think it's good to fail. And I have failed often and plentiful.
There's a book I'll share is fail hard, fail faster, fail forward. So failure is evident.
One of the I feel like a great mistake that I made, or maybe not so much a mistake, but something I would do different that I did in the beginning. Although I 100% support home ownership as an organization, I would have did rental development rather than home ownership, because the key to this development for developers is to create income stream to sustain your organization so that you could keep moving. And the other side of making a mistake that I didn't make was to go and knock down the doors of all the people that I thought that weren't doing me right. One thing I learned in this business, do not burn a bridge, because the people or an organization that might have been your worst nightmare may be, I'm not gonna call them your guardian angel, but may be good to you somewhere else down the road. So keep your head up.
Great.
I'll say just one other thing quickly. One of the things that that I've seen that happen to us and that may happen to other people is we grew a little bit too quickly. So a lot of times you see this project and it's just kind of, you try to put it together and it's too big. And so we grew, we were from like 5 employees to like over 120 employees inside of literally a year, which is ridiculous. So I'd say the growth of not like this, but more like this is a better route in my opinion.
I guess I'll say for myself, starting out in this new endeavor, I guess one of the shortcomings I would say I had, I don't know if it's a mistake, but more so not believing in myself soon enough or sooner than now. And understanding that sometime the road just comes out in front of you and you're going to make mistakes, but then there's always going to be a support system that you might not know is right there readily available. You have to just keep, going through it. And I think not being involved with this call or the resources that are available would have been a grave mistake.
So Brandon Walker, we don't have time for your last question, but I would encourage you to get in touch with the panelists. We obviously have a generous group here. So I want to thank all of the panelists for your honesty and your taking the time to share your challenges and successes and your plans for the future. We really appreciate it. And so now I'm going to turn it back over to Joe Chaika.
Thanks, Greg. And I echo all of Greg's comments. Thank you so much. There was incredible depth of experience, very rich content, and amazing developments that, in my mind, any municipality would be lucky to have in their community moving forward. So thank you so much. And at this point, we're going to transition into what we call our Solutions Lounge. And so I'm going to introduce each panelist. They're going to go through their presentation and we'll hold again the questions until the end. We've got a lot of incredible information to cover. So in an effort to save time for the presentations, I'm going to just, have everybody, look up the panelists themselves and take a look at their bios. They're incredibly deep. So we're going to begin right away with Victoria Roe-Barreca. She's the Director of Capital Solutions and Partnerships from Enterprise Community Partners. And then we're going to hear from Lydia Tom, a Senior Advisor, also with Enterprise. She's overseeing a lot of programmatic work of our housing agencies right here in the Hudson Valley. So we'll start with Victoria from Enterprise. Victoria, good morning and thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Just making sure that the slideshow will start. Yep. Perfect. So good morning. I'm here to talk about the racial equity work at Enterprise. It's a key part of our strategic plan and how we're working in this market and nationally. Enterprise recognizes the importance of BIPOC-led housing organizations to the community development space, and also that compared to white-led peers, BIPOC developers have encountered barriers to resources like grants, loans, technical assistance that have impeded their growth. And we want to work to rebalance the power and the profit in the real estate sector. We realize that capital is power and the power shapes the communities. So to level the playing field, next slide. To level the playing field, we've launched the Equitable Path Forward. This is a 5-year, $375 million nationwide initiative. This is targeted to help dismantle the deeply rooted legacy of racism in housing, from the types of homes that are built to where they are built, who builds them, who has access to them, and the wealth that is generated from them. Enterprise will influence the affordable housing industry by investing in capital grants and program support over the next 5 years to advance strategies that will support existing BIPOC leaders and increase the talent pool in order to create career pathways for future BIPOC leaders in the real estate industry. We will also work to strengthen BIPOC-led development businesses through our advisory services platform, which includes advisory services, consulting, network facilitation, and broad-based support. And finally, but I find most importantly, to address the capital needs. So to fill the capital gap that has been created by decades of systemic racism by intentionally investing in BIPOC-led affordable housing organizations. Through a $350 million growth fund, investments will be structured to increase the impact and scale of projects undertaken by BIPOC-led developers. This will include $100 million of CDFI entity-level working capital, such as flexible credit lines and access to unsecured low-cost pre-development, $150 million of project-level equity from Enterprise's business lines, such as our tax credit syndication and conventional equity business, $50 million of grants to build a balance sheet strength of BIPOC-led developers, and $50 million in credit enhancements through a standby guarantee facility for tax credit deals. So to that end, we're really excited. We've made some major headway in the last several months. Recently, we made some major announcements in New York under this initiative that do support the BIPOC-led developers that are locally based. For example, this spring, we announced an RFP grant opportunity. The applications were due at the end of May, and we are actually close to announcing these awards, which will be up to $450,000 of, again, grant capital to up to 12 grantees. These funds are designed to support a wide range of needs of BIPOC-led organizations and management firms. And this is going to help them accelerate their affordable housing pipeline, bridge operational gaps in their housing portfolios, and strengthen those organizations' balance sheets. And in terms of our more conventional capital toolbox, I do want to underscore that we do provide pre-development lending through our CDFI Enterprise Community Loan Fund. And as you've probably heard today, the pre-development needs are high. So this is an area where we appreciate the need for the early stage capital and how the access to this capital helps developers accelerate the pre-development process and advance to the construction stage. Currently, right now in New York, we're able to provide flexible pre-development funds, particularly for deals that are designed with 50% of the units that are affordable to rents at 50% of the area median income or below. In my role at Enterprise, I'm happy to serve as a sounding board in terms of capital needs and talk to folks at the earliest stages, particularly before their deal is ready for a loan application. The CDFI staff with Enterprise Community Loan Fund is always available to discuss product terms in more detail. Next slide. And just touching a bit more around some recent updates through the Enterprise Developer Advisory Service Initiative. We just recently launched a 5-part webinar series. Actually, the first webinar is happening today at noon to discuss CDFI basics, how to put together a loan package, how a lender looks at credit risks and makes decisions. The good news is for those that are interested in this and may miss it, these events will be recorded and can be accessed at a later time. And as you can see from the slide, there are other webinars that are happening over the next months to come, and they cover a wide range of real estate finance and development topics. So we're excited to offer that. And in addition to that, we recently, under, again, the Technical Advisory Services platform, we recently announced an RFP. These are applications that would be due July 16th. This is, again, available for nonprofit and for-profit affordable housing organizations with BIPOC leadership. The selected groups will work with us to complete an organizational and leadership goal assessment, which will identify areas of priority for the organization. We will match consultants with the organization to provide comprehensive services to address those priorities. And technical support work plans will be tailored to the unique needs and goals of each individual organization. This is designed as a wraparound program with a holistic capacity building approach through peer-to-peer discussions, a developed shared policy and advocacy agenda for BIPOC developers, trainings and network sessions coordinated by enterprise. In addition to this, we endeavor to make connections with mission-driven capital products as well as funder networks. So it's something we're really excited about. We've designed it in a way that can provide a holistic range of needs. Examples of that can include things from financial modeling and scenario planning for portfolio sustainability and growth, conducting cash flow projections, assessing business models, strategic business planning, and specific pro formas and end-to-end support on the deal process. So again, it's something that we're excited. It's kind of happening in real time. So if this is something that you're interested in, either the webinars or the RFP, please check out the links on the slide attached. And with that, I will turn it over to Lydia Tom, who will talk about two exciting initiatives that she's working on.
Thanks, Victoria. Good morning, Lydia.
Good morning. Can we move to the next slide? Great, thank you. So I'm going to touch on a couple of programs that I'm working in the Hudson Valley, and also these are available upstate and other jurisdictions as well. The first one is one called a New York State Landlord Ambassador Program. We did this with the Attorney General's office, and we selected several nonprofits to provide technical assistance, small grants and loans and support to mom and pop landlords. And we recognize that this inventory of small properties are probably the least supported in the affordable housing industry. There aren't a lot of resources for mom and pops. And the goal is to really provide both technical assistance support. A lot of owners, like some of the folks talked about in the first panel, you go into development not necessarily knowing what you don't know. And very often people buy a property because an opportunity arises, or they may actually live in a unit and they're looking to rent, or they already are renting a unit in the same property that they own to collect additional rental income to support them. And we had focused on small rental properties, particularly because this sector represents the largest share of properties owned by people of color. And that of this across the country, nearly 30% are owned by Black or Hispanic owners. And these are also the biggest sector where BIPOC tenants tend to rent. And very often these are unsubsidized properties, what someone had referred to as naturally occurring affordable housing. And as we discovered working with our upstate groups, and that includes Hudson River Housing, Repco, Pathstone, Arbor, and HAPIC in Essex County, a lot of the inventory that exists in these jurisdictions tend to be much smaller. You don't really find large multifamily buildings as you see in the 5 boroughs as much. And even in places like Yonkers or Mount Vernon, a lot of these jurisdictions mostly have smaller properties, and they're not even 6 units often. And so there was a program crafted by the state housing agency along with CPC to look at doing a small lending program for owners of smaller properties. But we discovered that a lot of these owners don't even meet that profile. And originally those were designed for 6 units or 10 units and up. And what we're finding through our nonprofit partners is that a lot of the properties tended to be even smaller than that. They're like owners that may own less than 10 units. They may have 1 and 2 families, and they may be scattered site owners. And we started this program over a year ago, pre-pandemic, and started launching the technical assistance. But then the program for the loan started, and after the pandemic, there was very little interest, if no interest at all, in borrowing money because owners were struggling even to just continue operating their properties. And what we're seeing from studies by Harvard and others is that this inventory is the most distressed of all the inventory from the pandemic. And we discovered that really these owners don't really have the means to keep going. And they are the most affected by higher arrearages of rent loss from either delinquencies or lack of tenants to pay rent at all. And so we have now worked with our nonprofit partners to really look at pivoting this to really looking at providing small grants to mom and pops to keep them going. And initially we'll focus on repairs. What we're finding is that some of the mom and pops may not even have funds to maintain decent quality standard housing. Over the last couple of years, there has been an inability to actually even do inspections for those who make a Section 8, and that we're finding that they are not meeting standards over the past couple of years and don't have means to really make those improvements. So we're pivoting and going to be working with our nonprofit partners to really look at making available small loans to really improve the property so they can meet the HQS inspections. We've heard horrible stories about people who don't want to lose their vouchers and are living in units or not even able to live in units because they're not habitable, but not wanting to vacate them because they don't want to lose their Section 8. At the same time, we're hearing owners have vacancies and they may have units that are not habitable and need some improvements, but they are unable to bring them back onto the rental market until they make some repairs. And so we're looking at potentially helping mom and pops make those repairs so they can re-rent them and create affordable units for the community. I think the other thing we're looking at is providing some support through these nonprofits to also help owners who don't really have good systems in place or may not have a process to even look at what their revenues and expenses are ongoing and think through how to best do some budget planning and projections for what to expect on expenses and also revenues going forward, and build a platform so they can potentially down the road access private debt to make improvements that may be needed on these properties. So this is something that we have available through these nonprofit partners that we selected. And so if you're in the lower Hudson Valley, Hudson River Housing is doing this, as well as REPCO in their jurisdictions. And if you are mom and pops that are interested in these programs, you can either approach these nonprofits or you can contact me. We can kind of put you in touch with the right organization to do this. Second program, going back to the prior slide, thanks, is something we innovated last year. So we put out a call for ideas with our nonprofit partners throughout the state. And we asked people to come to us with innovations that they had to figure out how to undo systemic racism in housing, in affordable housing. And we asked them to kind of think through things that would help to undo systemic issues, not just deal with symptoms of a problem, but what can they do to really change the way things are set up and to provide real changes to the way the structures are to kind of provide a different outcome, not just kind of helping people do things that they already have difficulty with, but what can we do differently? And of the innovations that we funded, I wanted to mention two that pertain to the Hudson Valley. And Mary will probably talk about this when she talks about empowering developers of color. That was their innovation. And so their goal was to really work with BIPOC developers in affordable housing to really think about what they may need by helping to provide mentoring, but also some pass-through money to help them, whether it's for earnest money to put down for an acquisition or some other ways of providing due diligence on developing or owning a property. The other group that I will speak to is Chester Agricultural Center is in Orange County. They are working with BIPOC farmers and farm workers, and there aren't opportunities for affordable home ownership or rental housing for farm workers or farmers. And they are working with farmers who both have their businesses, but maybe leasing land, or who are small farmers in Orange County. And they're looking to innovate a model, and this is not something that currently exists, but can they craft a way to develop housing that can be opportunities for whether it's home ownership or rental for farmers as well as farm workers. A lot of the farmers that they're dealing with that are BIPOC are actually lower income, and they actually qualify for affordable housing, but they have their own business, and there aren't opportunities for them to figure out how do they develop housing. And what can they do to kind of access housing that's nearby where they are farming, as well as they are employing some farm workers and they don't have affordable places to live nearby either. And so these are two innovations I wanted to uplift that are being done in the Hudson Valley, but there are others that are looking for systemic change as well. There's a group they're working with in New York City that is really looking at developing a cohort of appraisers from communities of color. And by training them, they'd like to really have appraisers that really understand the communities and the people who live there and the people who want to buy there, and working with the Appraisal Institute to really certify these appraisers, but at the same time work with banks who are willing to look at employing some of these people once they get certified. And that begins to undo some of the inherent problems that are existing in the affordable housing infrastructure that needs to be changed. And we are truly to really have them really lean more towards giving people of color a real ability to step in and play a role in this industry and not have their properties underappraised or not be able to sell them or buy them at the right values. And so those are some of the innovations that we're funding across the state. And we'll be sharing those experiences as they unfold.
Thank
So
you,
thank
Lydia.
you.
Thank you so much. Incredible, robust set of programs. I really appreciate that. So our next presenter is Kevin McQueen. Kevin is the Director of Lending with the Leviticus Fund, and he's going to be speaking about their new program called EDRI, Empowering Diverse Real Estate Entrepreneurs Initiative. Kevin, good morning and thank you.
Good morning. I'm going to try and share my screen here. Hope everyone can see it.
Yep.
Oh, it's not going to the full screen, but as Joe mentioned, late last year, Leviticus Fund, which is a nearly 40-year-old mission-driven nonprofit loan fund, started a new initiative that we're calling Empowering Diverse Real Estate Entrepreneurs, or EDRI. And it represents in many ways a coalescing of our core lending focus, which is working in underserved and under-resourced communities. Over the past few years, we began listening differently to our borrowers and other stakeholders, which led us to develop strategies that address specifically the challenges faced by Black and Brown real estate developers on a more deliberate basis. And that focus is really in removing some of the barriers to capital that will prevent entrepreneurs of color from really flourishing in the real estate development industry, and doing that both by providing capital in ways that meet the needs of this market segment, as well as partnering with other organizations to offer technical assistance and training. We are traditionally a very flexible lender, providing longer term, below market rate loans. And we work in the tri-state market, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. We are based in Tarrytown, New York. So we're very comfortable in Westchester County and the lower Hudson Valley. Our initial outreach has really identified two segments, although we'll probably further refine this market segmentation. But right now we're looking at two segments. One are some younger developers who might lack experience, don't have a lot of deals completed, but who could benefit from more direct technical assistance and training. Again, we're going to partner and collaborate with other organizations to offer those services. We're also looking at more experienced developers who don't really need that sort of direct training or technical assistance. They've completed projects, and their real challenge is in accessing capital, so that we are targeting our resources to meet that need. So our program goals, we think that building wealth is a key component of working with developers of color, particularly helping to lay the foundation for multi-generational wealth. So, our goal is to both increase their earnings as well as build their net worth. And we're focusing not just on for-profit developers, but also on nonprofit organizations, real estate development organizations that are led by people of color. Our central business model has been around providing loans to affordable housing. So we're looking through this program to expand the housing stock with, a clear preference on making units available to low and moderate income home buyers, low and moderate income renters. And then lastly, what we think is a very critical piece, and this sort of webinar is part of it, is to develop the professional networks and connections that enable developers to have more access to capital, to other kinds of resources, and to just general deal knowledge and opportunities. So this is a work in progress. Our lending parameters are again, within the general guidelines of what we've done traditionally. We're looking at smaller loans, in many cases, fixed interest rates, lending for those early stage real estate development needs, pre-development, acquisition, bridge and working capital, a little bit longer in term, going up to 4 years. Again, affordable housing, other kinds of commercial real estate real estate development projects that serve low and moderate income communities, and then having some flexibility on the kind of collateral that we will accept and work with our developers to provide. Lastly, want to announce that we've completed one deal so far with this program, and it's a project in Bridgeport, Connecticut. We provided a $2 million construction loan to a company called Ashlar Construction. Ashlar is owned and operated by a young developer who grew up in the East Bridgeport area. He is a certified minority business enterprise, and his first project with us is development of a retail shopping center that's going to be anchored by a full service grocery store. And so you see a rendering of the site on this slide. So we've got other deals in our pipeline. As Everett Perry mentioned, we've been working with Urban Ecoscapes on trying to help them with some of the projects in their own pipeline. And there are other developers that we're working with as well. So we welcome your questions and your interest in what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Great content, great content. And all of the presenters' information will be made available. And remember, this is being recorded, so it'll be available on the website as well. Our next presenter, Lawrence Hammond, he's the Senior Vice President with CPC and is leading a new program at CPC called Access, Acquiring Capital and Capacity for Economic Stability and Sustainability. Lawrence is joining us from Las Vegas this morning, so I really appreciate you getting up early and taking care of us. Thank you, Lawrence. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm going to share my screen at this time. I'm excited about the opportunity. Let me see if I can find view. Okay, yeah, cool. All right. Just excited about the opportunity to spend this early morning time. I think it's probably about 7:40 now, but just to demonstrate, how excited I am about the opportunity to be in this place of leadership at CPC. CPC has been around 47 years. We've predominantly lent in underserved communities, which in most times tend to be communities of color. And I've been with CPC since June of 2015, but have, spent 40 years in community development lending. And I can say without a doubt that this is the pinnacle of my career in terms of what I'm doing and the opportunity to bring this. Let's see, how do we do this now? Yes, there we go. Okay. Acquiring capital and capacity for economic stability and sustainability. And, as a result of last year's, racial reckoning in the country, CPC began to look at itself both internally and externally to see what we could do as a lender of choice to really make more impact and to really, bring resources, both capital and human capital, human resources to the marketplace, understanding our role historically in terms of providing financing, but looking at who we were actually lending to and realizing that we had to do better and that we had to dig deeper into the communities that we serve and to bring both capital and other resources to those communities. And so CPC got board approval from the senior level to set aside 20 million of our own balance sheet to create this program called Access. And they asked me to lead it up. And I find that also intentional in terms of, a person of color leading out in this initiative. And I have a colleague of mine, Wilhelmina Norman Hernandez. Together, we are the face of this particular program. And I think it's readily acceptable when we are talking to other people of color that they see, that there are people of color leading out in this initiative. And I think that speaks volumes to CPC's intentionality and commitment to providing the support to BIPOC developers. And so, I'm grateful to lend my voice amongst the other voices that you've already heard throughout this presentation today. Enterprise, Leviticus, you'll hear some of the others who are, in their own ways, bringing the resources that are needed. I think it's unique in terms of what each organization brings, and to find your own niche and to work. There are various needs that are out there: pre-development, construction, equity, technical assistance, recoverable grants. And to look at that in a holistic way in terms of the ecosystem and creating a way that these resources can be brought. What excites me is the fact that I have the opportunity to talk with people, with Black and Brown developers. Many of them have already indicated that we've had conversations, some that are on this panel already. We've engaged. CPC is speaking on various levels, and Access, we consider ourselves like the tugboat. We come alongside our field office partners in terms of they are our boots on the ground. So we have field offices throughout the state. We cover predominantly New York State, and we come along with an intentional focus of looking beyond the deals and really getting more into talking with these developers about their growth strategies and how they want to execute on their plan. So, our field teams are providing the resources from their toolbox of products, our construction and permanent products, but Access is also, creating that opportunity to think intentionally and to think really focused. And so not only has it helped us externally, but it's allowed us as an organization, as a company, to think internally about some of the things that we want to do in terms of changing our own institutional culture. I think what's been important for us in the last 9 months, that we've been at this actually 9 months, and we've achieved a lot. But I think it's because right off from the beginning, we identified, those tiers of developers, and so we consider the novice, the emerging, and seasoned. And for each tier, there's a certain product offering that is relatively geared for them, as well as the resources that are going to be necessary. And so it's through those listening tours. We wanted to take a bottom-up approach. It's always, when programs are created, not always, but it tends to be that when programs are created, folk come in with the solutions from the top down without listening to, the bottom up approach. And so we wanted to be really intentional about listening to what the needs of our stakeholders and folk that we are dealing with. And so out of that, we've created a robust pipeline of opportunities amongst the various product offerings that we're looking to leverage. And so I think, for us, it's a proof of concept, that we feel that we've gained now. And now it's about, actually executing on our plan. And so, we're looking forward to having that opportunity to do that. I'm going to put in the chat our contact information for you to go to our website and get more information. And look forward to, just partnering with my other like-minded CDFIs. One thing I want to make mention of is that, in the upstate region, we have partnered with HCR in their Legacy City Access Initiative, which the governor just announced, which is a $25 million initiative to work with the various land banks, identify opportunities for Black and Brown developers to take advantage of development opportunities in conjunction with land banks, and then also to identify Black and Brown homeowners who will then be the purchasers of those homes after they're rehabilitated. So this is something that we're really excited about. It's just one opportunity amongst many that we're looking to, partner with other like-minded CDFIs who are in this work and in this space. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Terrific. And as a past CPC employee, fabulous company. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next presenter, Kim Jacobs, who is currently the president and CEO of Community Capital in New York, and she's going to be speaking about some of their lending products and services. But I did want to take a moment to thank Kim for her dedication in housing and community development for over the last 30 plus years. Kim is retiring in a few days, and you're going to be missed by all of us. We're losing you out of the system, so to speak, but I know that you're still going to be here to answer questions and help this community and these communities throughout the Hudson Valley. So thank you. You've been incredible to work with over the last 3 decades. Kim, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Joe, so much. I'm going to share screen here with everybody. So as Joe indicated, I'm a short timer, but my passion for this subject is no less intense because of my short term here. I imagine I'll still be wandering around the Hudson Valley causing trouble even after I retire. So I'm the current CEO of Community Capital New York. Like some of the other folks on our panel, why am I not being able to advance this? I'm sorry. We are a community development financial institution located in the Hudson Valley of New York. I'm sorry, I'm having some trouble with this. I'm just going to talk. Like a lot of our colleagues, we provide loans to developers of affordable housing. We are the minnow in this pond of some really big CDFIs, but I think one of the things that's great for you all to know is that we often partner together and work together on deals and projects to make them happen. So it kind of doesn't matter where you start. I think whatever CDFI you're working with, including ours, is going to try and hook you up with the lender that can help you move your project forward. What I would say about Community Capital in contrast maybe to some of our larger colleagues is it allows us to be really nimble and flexible. And while we also provide pre-development loans, we provide smaller construction loans and smaller acquisition loans. I think one of the things I'm proudest of is that over the years, we have done what I like to call the weird, the odd, and the ugly. And those are loans that just really didn't fit in any other box. It was a capital need that a developer had at the time, that wasn't really something traditional. And we were able, because we have, a loan committee that really is fierce advocates for housing and has worked in this arena for 30 years. We have a loan committee that says, we're here to solve the problem. What is the problem? An example I can give is, for example, the village of Pleasantville had a volunteer group of citizens who were their affordable housing committee, and they were successful. They advocated for some inclusionary zoning and got affordable units in a condo development and got the right of first refusal on any of those units that would sell after the initial homeowners were in there. The problem is that they were not able to actually buy that unit when one of the units came back up for sale. They wanted to buy it long enough to extend the affordability provisions, but they weren't an incorporated entity of any sort. They were a volunteer group of community members who cared about housing. So community capital stepped in for a very brief time. We became the owner of this condominium. We allowed the volunteer committee to go ahead and change the deed restrictions, put it on the market, and it sold. And I use that as an example just of, we are not typically in that business, but it certainly aligned with our mission and our goals. And so we found a way to help move it forward. And I think that, that's something we're able to do because we're a smaller organization and can make those sort of decisions quickly and move solutions. I want to also tell you about Westchester County. Developers may not be aware that in partnership with Westchester County, we also administer what's called a feasibility loan fund. These are loans of up to $25,000 that developers can get at the very earliest stages of their project to help find those answers to questions that are make decisions about whether the projects go or no go. So for example, if you needed to do soil borings to see if there was rock, or if you needed to get a structural engineer in to see what are the load-bearing walls versus the walls you can tear down. If you needed someone to do a zoning analysis or a parking analysis or those sorts of things that might at the end of the day, depending on the decision that you got or the information that you got, may make you decide, gee, this isn't a project that can really go forward as affordable housing. There are solutions here, but they're going to drive the cost up to the point that it's really not viable for affordable housing. Those loans can be forgiven. I think that's a great opportunity for developers to explore projects that they otherwise might not take a pass at. So if you have something in Westchester that you have to kind of figure out the viability of, I encourage you to come. Those loans are put out at 0% interest, and like I said, they're forgivable. So that's kind of a unique product that we are able to have for our developers in Westchester County. And then the last point that I would make is that one of the callers earlier, one of our participants asked the question about using MWBE contractors. I just want to throw out there that Community Capital New York also is a small business lender, particularly for startup and emerging businesses that are not yet bankable. And that includes subcontractors that developers might use on their project or want to use on their project. One of our developers talked about, trying to have slow, steady growth as opposed to that hockey stick, which can really stress your company. I think sometimes that happens with subcontractors, that they have a great opportunity. They may not have the cash flow in order to take advantage of that opportunity. We can help them. And the other piece of the small business lending that I think could be relevant to some of our housing developers is if you're using mixed use development and you're looking for tenants for that commercial space, sometimes you have a tenant that you really want in that space for whatever reason, and they may not be bankable. So I just want to, have you add this to your toolkit, that there's some place you could send a potential tenant to see if they couldn't get the financing to get their business off the ground and thereby give you a solid occupant of your commercial space. So that's, we are located in Elmsford. Happy to talk to anyone. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kim. And good luck in retirement. We're still gonna see you around.
You will.
So our last presenter, last but not least, my friend Mary Ling over at Hudson River Housing. And Mary is the Director of Real Estate Development, and she's going to be talking about Equitable Access Initiative. Good morning, Mary, and thank you for being with us.
Morning. Thank you for everything today. It's been a great couple of hours to spend together with some great and talented people. So Hudson River Housing is celebrating 40 years of developing affordable housing and operating emergency, transitional, and permanent housing for low to moderate folks. And we do rental housing and homeownership opportunities, as well as homeownership education and home buyer education and counseling. So, this whole initiative started as a conversation between Tim McQueen and I sitting in my office one day. And Tim said, I'm intrigued by real estate development and how Hudson River Housing is able to build units, small units, large projects, small projects. So I want to know if I can just kind of hang around with you guys and start to learn this industry. And so it turned into a wonderful relationship that we've had with Tim over the years now. But then things changed with the tragic killing of George Floyd, and we decided to really focus this on making it a bigger and broader program and initiative. You've heard it called today Empowering Developers of Color, which was our initial name. But after talking to some folks, Black and brown folks, there was some conversations and we ended up changing the name to the Equitable Access Initiative. The goals of this initiative are to close the race gap in the real estate development industry. And so we want to work with potential developers of color, and it's a mentoring program because we realize at Hudson River Housing, we have access to capital, we have access to professional services, we have access to planning boards, to zoning boards, to city officials, to municipal officials. But we've come to realize that Black and brown people don't necessarily have that, which is wrong. And so we want to be a player in this, and we want to make a difference, and we want to bring on systematic change. And so the way we can do that is to use all of the skills, knowledge, resources that we have and bring people alongside one-on-one with us and be able to teach them this industry and be able to have them thrive and then become developers, just like Tim is doing and others that we're working with. And so we have group education, again, the one-on-one mentoring, but we want to teach them the nuts and bolts of real estate development. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of terms, there's a lot of access that you need, and we want to provide that access to folks who have been denied it for so long, and it just needs to stop and come to an end. So we're going to, again, use our resources and work with folks. We applied, as Lydia said earlier, to the enterprise, to the call for ideas, and we were funded $250,000, which is great leverage for us to get more money at the table. We're working with different lenders and having great discussions because the lending industry is designed for white people. And so people are hearing that message and knowing it needs to change. And so we're hearing about all different types of loan products that you've heard about today from these great organizations and lenders and CDFIs. And we've been working closely with them to bring these developers together with the different lenders in the industry and others in the industry that can just, make sure we're breaking down that lack of access And with the enterprise grant, we are actually able to give 8 developers that we'll be working with some down payment assistance or pre-development money, whatever's going to be needed as we go through. And in that program, we're working with Repco, and we're each identifying these developers to work with, because these are the goals, what you see on the screen. We want to build connections, increase transparency in the industry, build sustainability in the industry, change the face of the local development industry, and build long-term wealth for people of color so that they can have equal access to all that they want to do to develop affordable housing, to build equity, to build wealth, to be part of community, and to ensure that affordable housing for people of color is going to be built by people of color. So it's great to be here today, and I just thank everyone for their passion around this. And let's just continue to work together until we know that the change is coming, and the change has got to be permanent. So thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate that. So we're at the end of our time, and I didn't mind going over on either of these, because I think that, again, the content of this information, it's so rich, and it's important to hear. This is being recorded, so we're going to be able to share all of this information. Right now in the chat box, in the question and answer, I do not see anything coming up at the moment, but to all of the attendees, please feel free to reach out to us, and we're going to get any of your questions answered if we're not getting them answered right now. But what I'd like to do is to see if any of the developers on the first panel have anything in particular that they'd like to share with the panelists from the Solution Lounge, and we could have a quick conversation going back and forth that way. I'm happy to do that.
I'd actually, this is Anthony Bailey again, and again, thank you for all the panelists on here. This has been a great wealth of information. And personally want to thank Kim Jacobs for giving me my first loan, starting my business many, many years ago, to actually get me to this point. So the SBA program that they do offer actually does help a lot of individuals. So thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And good luck on your retirement, but I highly doubt that you're retiring. So, overall, this has been the information that has been provided. I'm personally going to definitely take advantage of when looking at the development here in Lower Westchester and the offerings that are available. But just wanted to give my comments real quick, not to take up any much more time. Just thank you for everybody and the wealth of information, and look forward to working with you all.
Thank you, Anthony. Anyone else?
I'd like to say, so out of the panelists that are in panel 2, we're working with 3 of those corporations, of those companies. So we appreciate the opportunities there. And I just think that if anyone has any projects that are new and upcoming developers, definitely reach out to each of the different panelists from this panel. And it's, for us has been tremendously helpful. I should also point out too, for those people who don't have the proper, this sounds weird, but if you don't have a CPA or a proper CPA, that's tremendously important for your business. So just make sure that you have a set of reviewed financials or audited financials, because those are things you're going to have to be ready when you're speaking to these various CDFIs and community banks.
Okay.
Terrific piece of advice there. Anyone else? If not,
yeah, I'd definitely like to say I'm completely appreciative. I thank everyone who joined the call today, and I learned a lot more from hearing from the other developers, and I really appreciate the new path that we're all going on together. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Sharing experiences and networking is so important, and we're, Pattern is happy and very pleased to be able to bring all of you together today and continue on our conversations and hear from resources and challenges and get to these solutions. So appreciate your time.
Joe,
yeah, go ahead.
Before we sign up, I would like to say Kim Jacobs congratulations. I guess that's what you say when you're retiring. My first project that I talked about, not the first, but the second project, the Lily Pearls, we work closely with CPC, Sadie McCohen, I think, which is, Sadie may be vice president, or she might be the president right now. I don't want to get it wrong, of CPC. She's up there in the world. And Ken Jacobs with their organization work very closely to make our project a success. And I truly believe that when Kim was talking about that product that's sort of like out of the box that they made happen, wasn't the traditional type of a loan, that we were that product for her. They created a bridge loan for us to make our project a success when it was dealing with extreme hardship. So we're really grateful for that, Kim. And again, I hope you all the best. And I will be contacting you before you officially get out of here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, James.
Joe,
Yes.
I think what's unique here is that, you know, you have this panel, you have a cross section of so many different folk that are doing things, and you have the resources that are aligned. And so each one of our organizations bring our own sort of lens and tools, you know, that can be readily accessed. And, you know, no one solution is going to, you know, something that CPC may not be able to do, you know, community capital or enterprise or Leviticus, you know. And so I think it's the combination of and the collaboration, you know. You know, for me, you know, personally, you know, I'm not in competition with anyone. And, you know, I think it's great to be able to have a toolbox of options, you know, that have not always been readily available. And so, you know, ensuring, you know, that you make those right connections is where it's at. And I'm James. Sadie is now a EVP. She's the EVP of blending and initiatives, and I report into Sadie. So I'll tell her you said hi.
Thank you, Lawrence. Anyone else? I think we're all set then. All right, well, thank you again. And in closing, I just want to also thank our investors in the Center for Housing Solutions, Howard Henner Rand Realty, the Carney Group, Community Preservation Corp, RUPCO, Hudson River Housing, Leviticus Fund and TD Bank, Kirchhoff and Baxter Development, and of course, NeighborWorks America, who is funding our entire series. So thank you, NeighborWorks. Appreciate it. And we'll be back next month, the month after, and in September to welcome some developers and a lot of information on sustainable and green building. We're working together with CPC on a series of 3 webinars, and we're very excited about that as well. So thank you. Have a fantastic summer.